Hello, and welcome to another Top 10 Thingies of Final Fantasy XIV. Today we're taking a look at bar. While most of the locations we are visiting are directly referenced as bars, some of them are going to be a little vague and will either be bar adjacent or will have a bar located within them. Let's get started on those. First on our list, and a rather easy one to miss, is in Western Noscea at Aleport. In this door off to the side, we have an unnamed bar. I guess we can refer to this Ale Bar or Aleportasia? Maybe you have something better than. The history of this bar is it was once almost completely out of business, according to who I assume is the owner or somebody who has a lot of power within this port, called Kaizo Poraizo. He is a booze merchant and is the lore master of this location, believe it or not. For such a small bar, it is very populated and almost more populated than some of the larger bars we'll see later, which checks out since there are a lot of merchants and various shipmates that pass in and out of the port constantly. The only reason this bar and this port in its entirety even exists after the calamity is due to the lowered taxes within La Noscea on alcoholic beverages. I guess you could say Limsa is full of a lot of drunks then. Now the Warriors of Light in Limsa Lamensa are starting to make a little more sense. Next will be staying within La Noscea and heading to Upper La Noscea. Here we can see the Warmwine Sanatorium, which can be read on the sign located right here, right near the entrance. Camp Bronze Lake was originally occupied in a different location until the receding water tides revealed all of these hidden hot springs. Now that this location has been well established, it gets use for treating the various soldiers and other people who come by to not only relax in the hot springs, but partake in drinking warm wine, as is the name of the place. In a side quest, you end up delivering and dispensing various warm wines to some of those soldiers injured here. And it seems to be implied that this is more than just wine and has some sort of healing properties to it, which is a funny fantasy take on how alcohol used to be treated back in the day. If you do this quest, it's mostly implied that this could be a mulled wine, which checks out based on how they treat it and how these soldiers react to its taste, depicting it as something very spicy and still has that warm taste, much like you would see a normal mulled wine, which is various spices, citrus, as well as various honeys or sweeteners combined together with a typically red wine, though depending where you are in Europe, they might not care what the base is for the mulled wine. All these various tables you see in the hot springs can also be sat on. The bar room itself feels almost more like a check-in room or a place to come rest than it does necessarily the bar in itself. But given the occupants of this room, I'm going to say they treat it as a bar. Going from a more cozy feeling all the way into the Neon Stein in Solution 9, full of its various bright and flashy colors. Though, strangely, the Neon Stein is very unoccupied and has few to little guests. My assumption is they wanted the players to fill this room and use it to their own discretion. But I've never seen anybody really come here. Maybe on different servers. Despite that, there is quite a bit of detail put into the bar itself. We have all these taps lined up, and all the drinks in the back rows are all rather unique and colorful. And there is an exclusive club in the back. I'm sure most of the Warriors Light are aware of it as well. We also have a DJ stand up in the side, which you can walk up into. I believe they made this into a housing item, if I recall, which I'm sure people love that given how popular venues are. Well, at least how popular they are on Crystal. Was that too much purple for you? Well, too bad. Here's even more purple. And probably one of my favorite bars, the last Dregs in Ultima Thule. This is a bar that you spend a large portion of society quest restoring it to become a place where everyone in Ultima Thule, the final souls and the final survivors of the end of times, come to collaborate and relax. This I found to be one of the more satisfying society quests that were tied together in the game, and gives a heartwarming feel to everything in the end of it, showing that even if you're on your last dregs, there's still time to enjoy what you have left. If you tend to skip society quests, I highly recommend doing this one. It is definitely one of my favorites of all of the expansions that we have had. Well, partner. It's a good thing we have two signs telling you what's inside this little house of ours. That's right. It's a bar and a saloon. And a bar? I think everyone understands what's here now. In case you missed the sign, this is a bar. Or is it a saloon? Both? Over in Shaaloani at Husatawi, we have this rather busy and messy bar that has not been kept very well, but fitting for a Western-themed bar location. I could tell they felt very much inspired by old spaghetti Western movies. Booze everywhere, junk lying all about, having the cafe doors, and all the decor on the walls has a nice fitting touch as well, with wagon wheels that seem to be of various sizes. I'm not sure what kind of wagons they're steering around with their cattle. The saloon even features an upstairs sort of dining area, or at least a more populated, organized area, even though there is still junk lying all over the place. And they even feature a dancer. Going out to the balcony as well, you get to these streamlights going across the banisters. They look quite lovely in contrast to the interior of this place. Shark, shark, shark. It's a shark tiki bar, but the only tiki part about it seems to be the very decorative sign that is displayed on top, as there's no sort of tiki drinks scattered about in the bar itself. And as far as I could tell, this bar seems to never be mentioned by name anywhere, but it does have a name, unless I missed it in a quest. But the bar's name is called the Flying Shark, as can be seen in the Eorzean language. The shark is oh so cute, and putting this little round bar gives it a quite unique look among the other bars that we've encountered. They even have a custom menu signboard written in chalk in the back, though it's mostly unlegible and seems to be written in cursive Eorzean, which is kind of cool to see. Maybe there's a higher resolution of this somewhere in the files, and that would be interesting to see. Given all that, the structure of this is rather bizarre. If you go underneath, you can see they mounted it to a singular stone pillar that has seemed to have quite a lot of erosion, as it looks like the tide risen this high at one point, and it's kind of just bolted up with various beams of wood. Then even going to the top of this, they have palm tree leaves, but it's clear they didn't want you to see it, which is strange, because if you go over to a building just nearby it, which I mentioned in one of my other videos, the trees here in this other bungalow have soil and a place for it to nurture. What's that we see? The Forgotten Knights. And what seems very cozy from the outside ends up being what appears as a standing bar, as there are no chairs depicted anywhere within this bar. My assumption behind why there are no chairs is it could be they do not want the resident knights getting rowdy and staying longer than they should when coming off of their shift from guard duty or other various wars they may have been partaking in while under the Pope's thumb. It makes for a rather spacious location though, besides that, and even features a downstairs area which is a little more rundown and decrepit than the upper floors. This place also serves various merchants as well as the entrance to the inn, which if you don't like paying for teleports, I'd recommend taking a look at some of the merchants. Over in Radz-at-Han, we are heading to Mehryde's Meyhane. This is a traditional restaurant or sometimes a bar, which we see both being occupied in here, that is seen in places like Turkey and Iran, and usually various other Persian cultures. If you look at some of these in real life, they tend to be very open air, just like the one we get depicted here in Radz-at-Han. In Persian, Meyhane is quite literally translated to wine house. And we can also see just that with the various wines in the back. This place also features 2 dancers that, unfortunately for them, dance their entire life, forever trapped. I don't know what's worse, dancing forever or shaking a drink indefinitely. All the gilded decorum can almost make this place feel a bit too gaudy for my taste. Now, the one you've been waiting for, unless you skipped ahead. That's right, this tiny little stone building all the way in Thanalan is a bar, and one that seems to be quite active. This bar even has a name. It's called the Peiste, named after the basilisk scale skin that you see throughout Thanalan. The people at this bar, just much like the ones in Noscea, aim to take advantage of people waiting for their various ships or simply passing by for trading. It could be very easy to miss this tiny little bar just right off the side of a place you frequent very much in A Realm Reborn. And now to our final location, and one I would be remiss to not mention, the Seventh Heaven Bar, a cute reference to Final Fantasy VII, occupied within Dhona. A humble little bar, even featuring a small restaurant portion, occupied by various adventurers, sees frequent activity throughout many of the MSQs, including ones outside of A Realm Reborn. We also get a lovely guest over in the corner, the Wandering Minstrel, who offers various challenges as you spin your tail to him. But we all know there's a more exclusive bar in the back rooms, the second base of operation for the Scion and the Warrior of Light. This place is probably the most nostalgic place any Final Fantasy player can have anytime the game makes you return here. Some of those memories good, and some of them maybe you being more annoyed. So it's always nice when we get a little reunion as we sip away on our beverages. And that will do it for another Final Fantasy 14 Top 10 Thingies. Up here, another Top 10 video. Down here, another video. Over here, subscribe. And thank you to my member. And thank you for watching. Bye bye.